Loneliness has become a growing problem in the United States. Millions of Americans say they feel disconnected from friends, family, and their communities. But new research suggests that the emotional effects of loneliness may not be exactly the same across the political divide. So why might lonely Republicans feel even gloomier than lonely Democrats? First, it is important to understand what the data does and does not show. Research on loneliness in America has found surprisingly small differences between political groups when it comes to how many people actually report feeling lonely. One major survey found that about 21% of Democrats, 20% of independents, and 19% of Republicans said they frequently experienced loneliness. In other words, loneliness itself is not simply a Republican or Democratic problem. But researchers are increasingly interested in what happens after people become socially isolated, and whether different social networks, expectations, and sources of support can influence how they cope. One important factor may be friendship and emotional support. Studies have shown that men are less likely than women to turn to friends when they are struggling emotionally. According to Pew Research Center, 54% of women said they would be very or extremely likely to seek emotional support from a friend. Among men, that figure was only 38%. That matters politically because Republican voters, particularly some of the party's strongest demographic groups, include many men whose social lives may depend heavily on spouses, families, workplaces, churches, or other traditional community structures. When those connections disappear, replacing them may be difficult. Researchers have also found that loneliness is especially common among younger Americans. People under the age of 50 are considerably more likely than older adults to report feeling lonely frequently. At the same time, Americans across the political spectrum have experienced declining participation in community organizations and fewer opportunities for regular face-to-face interaction. Social media may appear to provide an alternative, but online political communities can sometimes create another problem. Instead of reducing isolation, constant exposure to political conflict can reinforce anger, distrust, and the feeling that society is moving in the wrong direction. For someone who already feels socially disconnected, politics can become one of the strongest remaining sources of identity, and that can make political disappointment feel deeply personal. However, researchers caution against interpreting these findings as evidence that Republicans in general are less happy than Democrats. The picture is much more complicated. Political identity is only one factor among many. Age, gender, marriage, income, religion, friendship,